If you've heard about the new Trump accounts that were created by the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, well, then you'll want to watch this video as I'll be talking about how these accounts work, the $1,000 credit that you could potentially be eligible for your child, and who these accounts make sense for. If you're 50 and older and you want to learn more about planning your ideal retirement, then consider signing up for my on-demand retirement planning course. It's called Retirement Readiness On Demand. It's available on my Retire with Ryan website, and I take you step by step on how to create your own plan for retirement. We cover taxes, Social Security, Medicare, investments, insurance, estate planning, and much more. The best part is that it's over 7 hours of recorded content that you get to go through at your own pace, and you're also provided with some helpful checklists to plan your ideal retirement. So to sign up, head over to retirewithryan.com and click on courses. The Trump account was created as a result of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and it's a new type of tax-deferred account for American children. It's very similar to an IRA or a 529 account in the sense that any investments inside of the account grow tax-deferred. However, there are some quirks that make these accounts unique, and you really need to be aware of them, and that's what I'll be talking about in this video. So I mentioned at the beginning that there's free money potentially available for certain children, and that free $1,000 is available for a child born January 1st of 2025 until December 31st of 2028. These children are eligible for a free $1,000 from the government. There's no income limitation for the parents. The child must be a U.S. citizen, and they must have a valid Social Security number, and one of the parents must have a valid Social Security number. From what I've read, there's no downside to opening an account, opening a Trump account, if your child is eligible for this free $1,000 and then collecting this free money. If you did nothing else in this account, just got the free $1,000 and you invested it in the S&P 500 stock index fund, that's had an average annual return of 10%. If you just left it in there and then your child left it in there until they turned 65, that $1,000 at a 10% rate of compound interest would grow to be $490,000. Pretty amazing to see the value of compounding. Now, in 65 years, will $500,000 be worth what it is today? Certainly not, but you'd be helping your child get a head start on life and helping them towards retirement. So whether or not it makes more sense to contribute beyond that is really up for debate. So let's just say you're not eligible for this free $1,000. How do the other contributions work? Well, you can contribute up to $5,000 per year per account or per child, and this will eventually be adjusted for inflation beginning in 2027. And you can contribute to these accounts up until the child reaches the age of 18. And one of the big things that I really like about these accounts is that whoever's going to offer these, I'm assuming that the big investment companies like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Vanguard, and many other brokerage firms will offer these Trump accounts. But the investments must be the investment options that are available. You can't just buy whatever you want. You can't just buy stock or anything you want. It has to be a selection of low-cost index funds. And I think that's great because there are a lot of savings accounts for children that are not offering low-cost index funds. So this will help the money compound better over time. And I believe I read that the cost of the fund has to be less than 0.1%, which is wonderful. So you could invest in different index funds that are U.S. indexes, and it depends what the company offers, such as the S&P 500 or maybe Russell 2000 or something like a total stock market index. So it depends on where you're opening the account, but the good thing is that it'll be a low-cost option. And then once the child reaches 18, the money can be accessed. So the money can't be accessed at all before the child reaches 18. So one of the negatives I would say is that it looks like the only investment option is in stocks as of now. So if you're trying to shift the money more conservative as the child maybe gets closer to college, as far as now, that doesn't look like that will be an option. And employers can also contribute up to $2,500 into these accounts per year, and that won't be counted as income for the child. So it's possible that maybe Employers will offer these accounts and will contribute money into them as a benefit to their employees, and it'll be similar to a 401k or an HSA. So how do these accounts compare to some other options? Let's just say, how does it compare to putting money into a traditional IRA for your child? IRAs require earned income. That's a big differentiator between a Trump account. There's nothing in there that says the child has to have earned income. So when your child is young, they're not generating any income. So that really makes it difficult to contribute to a traditional IRA on their behalf. Trump accounts are also not offering you a tax deduction for any contributions. If your child had earned income, if they had a part-time job, or they some type of income, you could put money into a traditional IRA and get a deduction on that. So that is a different differentiator. Trump accounts, when the money comes out, are taxable at capital gain rates of 15 or 20%. So that is definitely better than an IRA, because generally IRAs are accessible when you reach 59.5, and chances are that most people will probably be in a higher tax bracket than a long-term capital gain rate tax bracket. So that is an advantage the Trump account has. And then as of, with an IRA, when you reach 75, there's something called the required minimum distribution. So that'll force you to take money out of the account. It doesn't look like the Trump accounts have that. What about a Roth IRA? That's another option that might be better for your children, because you pay the tax now, and then when the money comes out, it's tax-free. So that's a big difference between the Trump account, where the Trump account, the money's going to come out and it's going to be taxable at a capital gain rate. So the Roth IRA is better in that sense. But just like a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA requires that your child have earned income. So if your child's younger, they're not going to have earned income. You can't make a Roth IRA contribution on their behalf. Roth IRAs also have a contribution limit of $7,000 this year. So that is more than the Trump account. But again, you need that earned income. And then Roth IRAs don't ever require any minimum distribution at age 75. So you could have the Roth IRA defer for a long time. But if you want access to your Roth IRA before 59.5, you have to pay a penalty if you take out any gains. Your contributions always come out first, but your gains would be taxable, and potentially there would be a 10% penalty if you access them before 59.5. What about 529 accounts? Well, 529 accounts are usually used to save for college. And if you use the money in a 529 account for approved expenses, which include college tuition, other college costs, the distributions that you take from those accounts, even if they do include gains, are tax-free. So a 529 account is probably still better than a Trump account if you're trying to save for college. And 529 accounts also allow you more investment flexibility, that if when your child is getting closer to college age where they're going to take the money out, you want to shift the money more conservative. The 529 account, some of them will do it automatically. Others will allow you to switch into bonds or money market, whereas as of now, it doesn't look like the Trump accounts have that. However, if you do overfund a 529 account, which sometimes parents will do, their child will end up going to a school that costs less than they thought, or maybe they got some scholarships or some awards, and now you've got extra money in the 529 account. Any money you take out for non-educational costs are subject to capital gain or ordinary income tax and a 10% penalty. So you do have a higher tax rate potentially on a 529 plan if you use it for non-college costs than a Trump account. So, it depends what your goal is, but definitely if you're trying to save for college with a 529 account, a 529 account is probably still better than a Trump account. And there's also the ability for you to convert up to $35,000 of a 529 account over to a Roth IRA for your child, so that it could be a big benefit versus the Trump account. What about a regular brokerage account? You have the ability at any point to set up an account and kind of earmark that money for your child. You could just open a regular brokerage account at Charles Schwab, Fidelity, wherever, and you could buy an index fund, a low cost, low turnover index fund or index ETF. And most index funds pay very little capital gains because of their structure. And then, so on an annual basis, if you're investing in this index fund for your child, you would just have to pay tax on the dividends the funds generate. Most index funds generate very, very little dividends. If you look at, for example, one S&P 500 index fund, SPLG, the dividend on the S&P 500 is 1.19%. So if you had $10,000 in this fund, that would be a dividend of $119 for the year. So very minimal tax you'd have to pay on that dividend. Let's say you had $100,000 in this fund. That'd be a dividend of about $1,190. So a minimal amount of tax that you would pay on that dividend. So you could just set aside a brokerage account for your child, keep it in your name, and then you pay the tax on the dividends, and then you decide when you want to give that to your child. And then if you need it for college or whatever, you have access to the money. And it's also still yours. It appears that the Trump accounts, the child has full access to the account when they're 18. So you might not want to do that. But let's say you wanted to have your child have some tax benefits by putting the money into another type of an account versus just a brokerage account in your name. You could set up a custodial account. A uniform gift to minor or uniform trust to minor, UGMA or UTMA account. The benefit that you would get with this is that your child would pay the taxes. So there's something called a kiddie tax, where if your child has less than $1,350 of non-earned income in this tax year, they pay 0% tax on that. The next $1,350, they pay at their tax rate, so let's just say 10%. And then anything above that is taxed at the parent rate. So you could set up a custodial account. The negative is that based on the state where you live in, it dictates the age at which your child actually takes over this account. So that ranges between 18 and 25. And you might not want your child getting all this money at 18 or even 25. And additionally, if your child is going to college, any assets in your child's name are also counted as a higher percentage in the FAFSA calculation, whereas assets in your name are counted as a lower percentage. So it could make sense to just use a regular brokerage account, just kind of earmark it for your child, set the money in there, and that could be a much better option if you're trying to save money for them that's not going to be for college. So who should invest in a Trump account? Well, definitely if your child was born between January 1st of 2025 and December 31st of 2028, you should definitely open the Trump account, get the free $1,000. If you want to save other money for your child, it really depends. If it's for college money, I would say probably the Trump account is not the way to go because, as we discussed, a 529 plan is a lot better. And 529 plans also, some of them offer you a state tax deduction on the contribution. The Trump accounts don't appear to. Let's say it's other money you're trying to set aside for them to help them in life. You could certainly do the Trump account, but just realize that you're going to have to turn those assets over to them when they're 18. So maybe the brokerage account is better. Maybe the custodial account is better. So it really depends upon what your goals are, but it's really not a home run as far as these Trump accounts. It's nice that you can get the free $1,000. It's nice that you can get some tax deferral. But being able to only contribute to them until the child's 18 and also them getting the money at 18 is not great. If Congress really wanted to help children save, they could have just put something in there with Roth IRAs where there was no income limit until the child was 18 or 22. So definitely something to check out for the right person. So I hope this episode is helpful for you. As always, if you have a listener question you want to have considered for a future episode, head over to retirewithryan.com and click on Ask a Question. Have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you next Tuesday. Take care.